Are you a Christian woman entrepreneur who is working your butt off to get people to buy your products or your services, but you're hearing that annoying sound of crickets? Do you hear the crickets? Yes, because no one is buying. Ooh, I've had that painful feeling before, sis. But if you give me a few moments of your time, I'm going to show you how to move from no one buying your products or services to being sought after in business. I'm Reverend Jocelyn, and I grew my ministry-kingdom business from a simple blog to National Christian Trauma Healing Ministry. And now I help women just like you to do the same. Now, when I first got started, I was stepping out into what felt like the wilderness. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to figure out pricing. I was trying to figure out what service or product to offer. I was trying to figure out who I was going to serve. I was out here floundering. Like most Christian entrepreneurs, we don't really be knowing what's going on when we first get started. And so I had to figure out my way, which brings me to the first point that I want to teach you about today, and that is product market fit. When I first got started and I realized I needed to quickly figure out a way to generate revenue, I started off by trying to launch an online course. I had a bright idea of doing a course about being stuck and getting healing. And I was like, it's COVID and people need some encouragement. Let me invest all this money into making this beautiful landing page, recording probably 40 different videos, having it edited, having this whole thing built out. And when I tell you, I built this thing out over the course of 3 months and could not get one person to buy. I was so discouraged. But see, if I could have coached younger Jocelyn, I would have told younger Jocelyn, sis, before you spend all of this money, before you spend all of this time and energy, you might want to check for product market fit. Because with product market fit, you're not just going off of, oh my God, I have this great idea for a book, for a podcast, for whatever your vision is. No, but you're going off the fact that I have a proof of concept that someone actually might buy what I hope to sell. Because if you just go off of your idea alone without checking with the people that you hope to serve to see that will they not only buy, but will they also buy at this price point, then you might be spending a whole lot of time and a whole lot of resources on launching a product or service that no one will buy. So what you want to do is identify a product or service that you are best suited to provide people that will also be something that will best serve your people and they will be willing to spend money on. And when you have that in line, you have what we call product market fit. Another problem that a number of women struggle with is standing out in the marketplace. They introduce themselves as a life coach or a nutritionist or, an author or a motivational speaker. But how many of them exist in just the United States alone, let alone in your community? You kind of sound like white noise. So let me tell you a story. Imagine you were walking along the beach that went for miles. And as you're walking on this beach and you feel the water just brushed up against your feet, you notice that this one section of the beach is just so congested. There are kids running everywhere. Some of them are bad. They're knocking each other over. There's people fighting for room on the ocean shore. They're over here just rumbling and grumbling. And you're like, I need to go the other way. And so you say, let me keep walking. And on the other side of the beach, you notice that it is just calm and serene, and no one is really there. And you're like, man, I got all this room to myself. This is the difference between a red ocean, which is bloody for space. Everybody is just fighting for territory in business, in your category, and a blue ocean that you're essentially kind of a category of your own. There's no one else competing for space because you've defined yourself as the category queen, the only one who can do this particular thing. And so here is the quest. Here's the challenge for you. How can you differentiate yourself? Yes, you might be a coach, but can you stand out as the one, as the category queen, the one who's leading the pack, or the only person who can coach in this particular way, could do hair in this particular way, can do nutrition in this particular way? What can you do to differentiate yourself so you're not competing against people in the red ocean where it's bloody and people are fighting for space, but you have a category of your own. And when you get that category queen spot, sis, people are going to be knocking down your door to get on your calendar. Now, once you decide you're going to become the category queen, or you're going to play around in the blue ocean, one of the first steps that you have to make is making a banging signature offer. I'm talking about an offer that makes people say, "What? She really doing that?" Because they see the value of what you have to offer, and the value tremendously outweighs the price. Now, value is different than price. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And when you're able to show people the gap between the value and the price, and the value outweighs the price so much, then they're going to be like, "Oh my goodness, this is a steal. I have to work with her." In the value price discrepancy, though, one of the things you also have to make sure you do is you speak to the person who's your assignment, and you have to speak in their language. You can't use words that they're like, what is she talking about? All technical stuff, jargon. No, you want to speak language that speaks to her soul, or speak to their soul, or speak to their problem. And one of the things that I often like to remind people is what gets people to move anyway, to make a decision. There's two things. It's either moving away from pain or moving towards pleasure, moving away from a problem or moving towards a desire. And so when you're able to show people through your product or service that you're going to do one of those two, and you're able to show them that your product or service can help them to get where they desire faster and easier, you combine that with a value that's high and the price that seemingly might be lower, are much lower than the value, then they'll buy. Now, don't get me wrong here. When I say the price is lower than the value, yes, that does have to be the case. You have to show people the value of what they get is much higher than the price that they pay. But that does not mean that your prices are low, low, low. No, 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 no. We're not trying to just give people stuff for $1.99 when it's worth thousands of dollars. You're not undervaluing your services. The goal is to show the gap, though, between the value and the price that people pay. One of the things that many Christian women struggle with is their pricing. And I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. But I do want to tell you that just because you're a woman of faith does not mean that you have to sell your services for cheap. If you're offering a premium service, stand in that. Know who you are, understand the value, and just show people the difference between the value and the price, and people will start running towards your door to buy what you have to offer. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully it got those wheels turning on how you can stand out in a crowded market and start drawing customers to your door. And if it was helpful, do me a huge favor and like and make a comment on today's video. I personally respond to every single comment. Also, if you're looking for some additional support in developing your signature offer, figuring out your messaging, I actually put some resources for you in the notes. So go ahead and check them out for me. You don't have to do this alone. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.